Hi, this is Rob from SeeHowToDoIt.com. Before we start the video, we'd like to thank you for watching. We'd also like to ask you to please like, subscribe, and share on social media, and visit us at SeeHowToDoIt.com. Today we're going to do pretty much an extreme makeover on this swamp cooler, and it needs quite a bit of work. First, we're going to do an evaluation to see what it needs. Let's get started. I'm going to start by taking a walk around the swamp cooler, which you can see it's quite rusted out. It's not in the greatest shape here. And we have pretty much a chunk missing right over here. I have some rolled steel, so we're going to go ahead and cut some of that and we'll patch that. As you can see, there's a lot of surface rust, which some of that will scrape down, and we'll also go ahead and hose that down. So on the outside, that's pretty much all we have to do is fix that chunk that's missing out of there from being rust out. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the doors. Alright, on this particular swamp cooler, it actually has clips that you push in here and push in here, and the doors will pop right off. You can see pretty much the same thing on the outside. There's a lot of surface rust on there, and also where the distributors supply in here, that's pretty bad too, so we're going to go ahead and clean that up. And we're going to go around and remove all the doors. And on this swamp cooler, whatever it needs, we're going to fix it as economically as possible. We're fixing it for somebody that want to spend the least amount just to get it up and running. So we're going to go ahead and examine the inside now. Okay, as you can see, we have a lot of surface rust pretty much throughout the swamp cooler. A lot of this we're going to take a scraper and we're going to go ahead and scrape it all down. Our belt here looks actually still pretty good, so we'll be able to work with the belt. And the swamp cooler float is broken, so we're going to definitely need to replace that. And once we get all that done, we'll see what else we got. Looks like the distributors are still okay. None of them are broken up there. We are missing the standoff for the drain overflow. I do have one of those. Hopefully this is not bad. If this is bad, a lot of times they'll get cracked from taking them out, so we might have to replace the drain there. And short of that, it looks like we do have a lot of rust, so we'll go ahead and scrape all that down throughout the swamp cooler. And it pretty much looks like everything else should be okay. We will also go ahead and oil the bearings on both sides, and we're going to scrape out all this pan. And it pretty much looks like about it, at least until we get the swamp cooler up and running. So we're going to start by scraping it down. So pretty much throughout the swamp cooler, we're going to use a scraper or whatever else you can find. And we're going to go throughout the whole cooler and scrape it down. As you see here, we're going to do all the walls wherever there's rust, including the pan of the swamp cooler. We're going to go ahead and scrape that all down, and then we'll take a shop vac and we'll vacuum up all the debris. So that's pretty much straightforward, so we're not going to waste a lot of time with the video on that. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape it all down, and we'll go ahead and shop vac it out, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, I pretty much went through the whole swamp cooler, scraped it all down. I also did use a wire brush to scrape it down a little bit better. And pretty much now we're going to install a swamp cooler float so we could go ahead and fill it up and see what we have to know if we have to possibly reseal the pan. Here's our swamp cooler float here. We're going to go ahead and remove this nut over here. Go ahead and take off the washer too. And you're going to want to size up a drill bit, because we're going to have to drill a new hole because it's all rusted out. And pretty much this bit here should be a pretty good match. So we're going to use this drill bit to drill a hole. And we're going to actually move the camera here a little bit. We're going to drill the hole about right over here. So we'll go ahead and get that started. Okay, and we're going to go probably about right over here. It should be good. And obviously it popped right through because it's pretty rusted out, and we're going to ream that out just a little bit. We'll go ahead and see if our hole is big enough over here. Needs to be a little bit bigger. Ream it out a little more. That'll probably be good right there. Oh, yep, that's good there. So now we're going to go ahead and insert it on the inside. All right, we're going to go put our washer back on our float over here. And now we're going to insert the float into the hole right over here. You can see that right there. Go ahead and insert it in. And now we're going to go ahead and put the nut on the other side. Okay, we'll go ahead and put on our nut. You're going to want to make sure before tightening the nut that the swamp cooler float is facing perfectly up, straight up and down here, the supply, because you want the water to shoot straight down. So now we're okay to go ahead and tighten down the nut on the other side, and we'll go ahead and connect our supply line. And an easy way of connecting a water supply line is something like this. This is all this is right over here is a 1/4 inch supply line, and on the other end you have a 3/4 inch to 1/4 inch swivel connector over here, so you can connect your garden hose. So we're going to go ahead and screw this on here. And then we're going to go ahead and screw it onto the garden hose here, and then we'll be ready to start filling up the cooler to see if we have any leaks in the pan. And we'll also adjust the swamp cooler float. Okay, our swamp cooler float is hidden in the bottom, so we're going to have to go ahead and bend this bar over here for it to start filling. So we'll actually go ahead and hold this back over here and just bend up on it a little bit. And as you can see, it's going to start filling. And you could, in most swamp coolers, see a water line, which should be about right over here. So we're going to go ahead and let this fill, and we'll see if we need to possibly readjust the swamp cooler float over here for the water to fill up higher. So we'll pause this and come back to it. All right, the water level is still a little bit low, so we're going to put a little bit more bend into this here so we could raise our water level up a lot higher here. So we'll give it another little bend here, and we'll let that go, and we'll see where we're at when it stops. That's going to be pretty good for the adjustment of the float. The water is just about where we want it. However, we do have some leaks into the swamp cooler pan, so we are going to have to go ahead and seal the pan. So we're going to go ahead and drain the pan, and we're going to seal it with sub sealer. Okay, we have the swamp cooler turned on its side, and we're going to actually, with the channel locks, hold this nut back, and we'll hold this nut back. We're going to need to remove both drain standoffs. So we'll hold it back and turn it from here, and you're going to need another channel locks to hold it from here. All right, we're going to go ahead and get it started. And if yours is really bad, you can always just take a grinder and grind it off. Alright, pretty much have it off. Alright, we have it off, and we're going to repeat the same step for the other one. Okay, we're able to get them both off, and we only need one drain. As you can see, there is some damage over here, so we're going to eliminate one of these, and on the other side, before we patch the swamp cooler, we're going to cut some steel and fill it on the inside with some steel to eliminate this one, because there's a hole there. Alright, to do the repairs, I did have some steel laying around, so we're going to go ahead and use this for the bottom of the swamp cooler where there's a hole for the drain, and for the side of the swamp cooler over here, we're going to use this right over here. We're going to actually screw it to it. But on the one for the bottom right over here, we're going to actually, we'll apply the sub sealer here, then we'll go ahead and put the steel down, and then we're going to put sealer around it because of the bottom of the pan. We don't want to attach this with any screws. And before we start repairing the sheet metal over here, because of the top of the swamp cooler is sagged without the doors in here, we're going to go ahead and put back in our doors before repairing this. That way, when we attach the sheet metal, we'll have the proper height for the doors, and the doors will properly fit back in the cooler once we're done. All right, we've put a little bit of a bend in our sheet metal, and when you put it on, you're going to want to make sure that you don't overlap it on the doors over here, because otherwise you won't be able to get them off. So be very careful of that as you go along. And we're also going to be using self-tapping sheet metal screws to attach the metal to the swamp cooler. All right, we're going to begin by attaching it on the bottom here first, and like I said, be very careful not to overlap it. Otherwise you won't be able to get your doors off. All right. Okay, that's one on there. We'll go ahead and straighten this out. We'll go ahead And we're going to put one upper, probably right over here, since there's not much to grab onto. All right, now we're going to go ahead and bend this a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and tack it on this side right over here. Now we're going to go ahead and attach it over here. All right, that's going to actually be pretty strong, and because we're missing so much sheet metal, we're going to only go with 4 screws on the top and bottom here, and this is going to be pretty good. And we'll seal it from the inside with sub sealer, because we really don't want to pierce the pan any more than we have to, but this is a necessary repair, so we have to be able to do this to be able to still use this cooler. All right, as we showed you before, we went ahead and already scraped out the cooler, and we also took a wire brush, and we got everything as good as we could possibly get it, being the condition of this. So right now we're going to be ready to start putting it on the sub sealer. This is what we're going to be using to reseal the pan in the swamp coat. You can pretty much get this at any home improvement store, and we'll also put a link in the description. It comes in quart containers and also a gallon. Okay, as explained before, we're going to go ahead and repair our bottom pan with the hole first. We've went ahead and put a rag underneath so all the sub sealer doesn't drip down, and pretty much you can apply it with either a paintbrush or a roller, whichever you happen to have. So we're going to go ahead and get this started now. And it's a good idea to have gloves. If you don't worry, it will come off. Once it dries, this will peel off your hands. So we'll go ahead and apply this on pretty liberally right here. And then we're going to go ahead and put our sheet metal on top of that. All right, that's going to cover our sheet metal. So we're going to go ahead and put this down over here. And we're going to go ahead and put it very liberally on top of it. Preferably without moving it, of course. All right, and that's pretty good. What we will do later, first we're going to obviously go ahead and do the whole entire swamp cooler pan, and then as this sets, we're going to go ahead and probably put another coat or 2 on this, and then once the whole swamp cooler is done, you're going to want to let this sit for 24 hours. So pretty much the whole cooler, we're going to go around and apply it just as you see over here. So to save time in the video, we're not going to show you that because the rest of it is pretty much straightforward. Okay, we've went ahead and coated the whole entire pan. As you can see, we've went up to the lip right over here, pretty much all the way around. And where we inserted our steel, once it sets up, we're going to go ahead and give it probably another 1 or 2 coats there. If you don't have any issues where you had to repair the bottom of the pan, you really won't have to worry about that. And also, where we did put the sheet metal in over here too, we're going to go ahead and hit that again with another 1 or 2 coats. But we're going to wait for this to set. So, and then, once you do that, you definitely want to let it sit for a minimal of 24 hours to let all the sub sealers set, because you don't want water getting underneath it, because if it does, it will lift this up. Okay, fortunately, resealing the pan did take care of the leaks. So now we're going to go ahead and oil the bearings, and here's the bearings right over here. And it's going to be the same procedure on both sides. On most bearings, you'll have a little lip that you could open up right over here. And you're going to go ahead and use zoom spout oil. So we're going to go ahead and get that started. We'll go ahead and open up the lip here and put it in our tube. We'll go ahead and squeeze it in. And it is best to go ahead and turn the squirrel cage as putting in the oil. All right, and that should do it there. You're going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side. Now we're going to go ahead and check out the doors and do whatever we have to do with the doors. Okay, just like the rest of the swamp cooler, the doors are in pretty poor condition too. So you're going to want to go ahead and hose these down as best as possible. And you're going to pretty much want to do that on both sides here. And we're not going to be replacing the pads on these things, because they'll be able to get another season out of that. So go ahead and hose them down thoroughly, which is pretty much straightforward. And now we're going to show you how to clean out the distributors. All right, this is the top of the distributor supply right over here. You can see these holes over here, you're going to want to make sure they're open just as they are. If they're not, you could go ahead and stick in a flat blade screwdriver and spread them apart a little bit, just like you see right there. And you're going to do that all the way across, because you definitely want to have all these as open, as wide as possible, because the bigger they're open, the better the water flow. So pretty much that's about what we're going to do on the swamp cooler. Once again, we'd like to thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share on social media, and visit us at seehowtodoit.com. Thank you.